Hi, Tad Johnson with Island here. Today I'm joined by Eugene Kim. Eugene is one of our SEs who's working with a healthcare customer on solving kind of a unique challenge. So Eugene, welcome, and can you tell us a little bit more about this customer you're working with?
Thanks, Ted. Yeah, my customer is in healthcare, and their challenge is actually arming their workers with a compute environment, right? So they looked at the traditional desktop laptop route, but that was cost prohibitive. And then they considered desktop as a service, which also came with a very high cost. But the other issue with desktop as a service was they needed additional tooling to be able to meet their security requirements, especially considering that they were going for a HITRUST certification and validation. So the healthcare company reached out to me. We got to talking about Island, the enterprise browser, and they quickly realized that the enterprise browser could be an endpoint for them that already contained all the security controls and visibility they would need, except they do it all just from the browser instead of layering on a nearly endless stack of endpoint agents and inline security infrastructure. The various requirements out there that call out password protected screensavers, right? After X amount of inactivity, your screen has to lock and you must re-authenticate or do something similar to a re-authentication to unlock the screen, right? And that was coupled with after another period of inactivity, you must tear down network sessions and connections, right? So that was a capability we turned around very quickly in a matter of, I don't even think it took us 2 days, but we turned this capability around for them where the browser would freeze after inactivity while meeting the same authentication requirements to unlock that frosted browser. And we also provided the capability to kick a person out of the browser and tear down those sessions after another period of inactivity. So what actually ended up happening is this healthcare company now treats the Island Enterprise browser as an endpoint, right? So think about that. Yes, they still have a few folks who have specialized hardware and software, so they will get hardware in the traditional sense. But now they have an entire user population using just the browser that can run on any device with all the protections they need, just done differently and in a more simple manner. So they can essentially treat the enterprise browser as an endpoint. And there's a phenomenal downstream efficiency gained as well, should they need to sever or terminate that enterprise browser endpoint.
What else are they doing to protect that data? So for example, how are they protecting to make sure that someone's not downloading all that content onto their desktop where it would be outside of the enterprise browser?
With the enterprise browser, the main concern being data spillage, and specifically data from very specific critical apps from leaking out of that app, and in the worst case scenario, leaking onto the endpoint and leaving the app or leaving the device, right? So we actually used our last mile controls, which is a different way to do things, a much simpler way to do things. We used our last mile controls to ensure that when that worker is in that critical app, think electronic medical records, right? When that worker is in that EMR app, the data cannot leave it, meaning they can't download data out of it, they can't print data out of it, they can't save what they're seeing on the screen, right? And in addition, there are some, I'll say there are some content, there are some documents, right, in that EMR platform that physicians and things of that nature, people of that nature may need to see. So instead of allowing the download of that PDF, as an example, out of the app or out of the browser, we offered them a secure viewer so that they can look at the content of these PDFs, right? And they essentially locked it down. They locked it down to ensure that the physician or clinician can only input data or when they are in the app itself and cannot pull data out of it, because that's actually the real requirement. Someone working in that platform all the data should stay in that platform. So yes, we set up the homepage so all their apps are populated and they can just click to go directly into the app. That was all set up. Those are table stakes for us, at least, right? But the browser freeze. So when I'll use an example here. After 5 minutes of inactivity, right, meaning someone walked away from the console, the browser freezes over. All the tabs and everything remain in place, but you cannot interact with the frozen browser. And it's very pretty. It looks like frosted glass across the entire browser, right? But the user cannot interact with the browser unless they re-authenticate. And once they do re-authenticate, everything is still there. They don't have to open tabs and navigate again. They can just continue where they left off from. And then the harsher kick out would be after like an hour of inactivity. So and actually it's 30 minutes in their case. So after 30 minutes of network inactivity or session inactivity, we actually kick the person completely out of the browser, close the browser, and all those open tabs, they needed those. Well, we were terminating sessions anyway, so all of those were terminated. And that's the exact behavior that they were looking for. And we helped them achieve that. And let me tell you why that's important, because there was major sensitivity about the data and information in that EMR platform, right? So even a scenario like a worker was working in the EMR platform, as they should be, right? But if they walked away, they could not afford to have just a passerby accidentally, intentionally, or unintentionally see patient information and patient data and patient records on the screen, right? So that's why that particular feature was important to them.
I really like the way you described that, where we're applying security controls that are going to sound familiar, like locking a screen or ending a session, but we're doing it all from within a browser. So it doesn't matter. It could be on a Windows machine, which would normally require one management tool. It could be on a Mac that would require a different management tool. But because we're delivering it all through the browser, we have one control point for that customer to manage, and they can deliver that secure environment to any user.
That's exactly right. And I like how you put that, right? If I could add to that, Ted, I would just say, we can think of it this way. With the enterprise browser, we deliver the same outcomes. If you truly think about it, we deliver the same outcomes, right? But we do it with just a native browser and without a nearly endless stack of agents or inline security and infrastructure, right? So it's a very attractive thing, I hope, for folks.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Eugene, thanks so much for sharing that story today, and have a great rest of your day.
Oh yeah, I had fun. Thanks, Ted. Take it easy.